If you're an Nvidia stock shareholder or just an AI investor stock shareholder, you got a lot of great news this week. We have three main players saying that they're going to spend a lot of money on AI infrastructure. We had Microsoft mention that they are good for $80 billion for this fiscal year. We had Meta announced a huge growth in capex versus 2024 of somewhere between 60 to 65 billion. And then we had that massive Stargate project. Obviously, we've kind of seen some also news that might be seen as bearish. I actually talk about DeepSeek AI in my previous video, so make sure to check that out. But on today's episode, Too Long Don't Watch, well, maybe stock prices for companies like Nvidia and AI companies might not see a nice, or AI chip companies might not see a nice boost right now. This kind of news that we saw this week is great for long-term investors. And I'll explain a little bit more in today's episode, but first, make sure to hit the thumbs up, the subscribe button, check out the pinned comment for a special offer at fool.com/Jose, and check out my free daily semiconductor newsletter, whatthechip.happened.com. Link is down below. So let's get started.
I want to thank the Motley Fool for sponsoring this video, and check out fool.com/Jose for the 10 best stocks to buy now. With that link, you get a promotional offer for the subscription service. Now, let's continue with today's episode.
All right, so like I mentioned, right, if we did see on Friday, Nvidia stock did sell off roughly 3%, and after hours, the stock is down roughly another few percent. Year to date, though, the stock is up about 3%. And again, I mentioned that we did get a lot of great news from Nvidia right now. And some people might be wondering, Jose, we're always getting great news for Nvidia. Why isn't the stock price increasing? I personally believe that the news that we get right now are evidence that we can put in our bullish case where, hey, look, the trend of AI is still strong. Hey, look, Nvidia can definitely grow in revenues in the upcoming years. Hey, look, Nvidia does have the potential to beat earnings expectations, right? So all these evidence that we saw this week, while might not create volatility or huge price increases for Nvidia in the short term, I think in the long-term investors are pretty happy. So the first thing I want to take a closer look at is one that happened on Friday, and this was Mark Zuckerberg. So Mark Zuckerberg mentioned that this will be a defining year for AI. In 2025, Mark Zuckerberg expects Meta AI will be the leading assistant serving more than 1 billion people. Llama 4 will become the leading state-of-the-art model, and they will build an AI engineer that will start contributing increasing amount of code to their research and development efforts. To power this, Meta is building a 2 gigawatt plus data center that is so large that it could cover a significant part of Manhattan. We'll bring online 1 gigawatts of compute in 2025 and will end the year with more than 1.3 million GPUs. We're planning to invest 60 to 65 billion in capex this year while also growing our AI team significantly, and we have the capital to continue investing in the years ahead. This is a massive effort, and over the coming years, it will drive our core products and business, unlock historical innovation, and extend American technology leadership. Let's go build. So a lot of things to take here. The first thing that I grab as an AI investor or an Nvidia investor is, hey, look, 60 to 60 billion dollars this year alone. That in 2024, Meta spent about $40 billion, right? So almost a 1.5x increase in capex growth, and a lot is going to go for things like AI GPUs. And for Mark Zuckerberg, they do spend a lot of money on Nvidia. Obviously, they do spend money on AMD for the MI300, so that also could be seen a bullish case for AMD. But I think the biggest winner out of here is going to be Nvidia. Now, the second thing that I saw here that really got me excited is Mark Zuckerberg mentions that they have plenty of cash and we have the capital to continue investing in the years ahead. So it tells me that this is not just going to be an off year where 2025 is going to be strong. Based on those words, it can also assume that if the trend of AI continues, we should continue to see a nice amount of investment in capex for AIs in the coming years ahead. So again, these are all kind of bullish cases that we can kind of add into our Nvidia bullish scenario or bullish thesis. A few things here is this data center that he's talking about is not new. We actually talked about this in this channel earlier in December when it was announced, and this is the Richland Parish facility, which will be the largest of more than 20 Meta data centers around the world. And site work begins in December of 2024, and construction is expected to continue into 2030. Now, this is something another thing to consider, right? It is that a lot of these data centers, while they're spending money right now, these Mark Zuckerberg and all these big tech players, if you're building a data center now, it's going to take some time for this data center to be ready, or even portions of it to be ready. So, all these big players that are ordering right now are ordering for their current data centers. But for example, this data center that's going to take multiple years to be built out, Mark Zuckerberg is not getting those GPUs right now, because the last thing that you want to see is GPUs just sitting and doing nothing, right? So I think this can also be seen bullish for AI chips, as it kind of showcases that at least for the next few years, as these data centers continue to be built up, because it takes multiple years to stand it completely, you're going to continue to see demand for AI chips, and not all of it is coming at once, right? We know that you can probably build maybe a portion of the data center in the first 2 years. So that portion of GPUs can be ordered in the first 2 years. Then the other part of the data centers can be built out in the next few years. So that portion of the GPUs can be built out for those years. And this is why companies like Nvidia mentioned that they do have strong visibility of what kind of revenue they can expect, and what kind of chips they can see or they can sell in the upcoming years as well. So I think this is very bullish. Again, it just gives you that bullish trend for Nvidia. Now, Meta is expected to announce earnings on January 29th. So this upcoming Wednesday, I'll definitely be covering it. So make sure to stay tuned to the channel. I'll be doing an earnings video focusing on first maybe just the AI aspect, but then more importantly, focusing on everything else Meta announces, or more of an overview for Meta investors. The final thing I want to finish with Meta before moving into another company is Meta is such a huge player in the social media world, right? Billions of people use Meta platform solutions one way or another. And eventually, AI, if we start, for example, if Mark Zuckerberg's team develops AI that does things like compute thinking or thinking of time, like we see O1 and O3, Mark Zuckerberg already has the massive amount of people that they can use it. So they're going to need a lot of computational power, right? So this is going to be pretty interesting to see how Meta develops, as they have a huge population using their products already. And the amount of computational power they're going to need is pretty insane. Now, the second one we're going to take a closer look at, this came out maybe about a week or 2 weeks ago, is Microsoft, right? But we have heard reports from Microsoft CEO this past week when a lot of questions were talking about the Stargate program, and we'll finish this episode with the Stargate program. But Microsoft has mentioned that for the fiscal year of 2025, Microsoft is on track to invest approximately $80 billion to build out AI-enabled data centers to train AI models and deploy AI cloud-based applications around the world. So we see another player here investing huge billions of dollars in this year. Now, I'm actually a few things to consider. This is fiscal year for Microsoft, and Microsoft's fiscal year is between July to June, right? So it's actually to July 1st to June 30th. So pretty much from July to July, right? So they're already about to report their second quarter, and Microsoft only has 2 more quarters of this fiscal year. The reason I like this is because Microsoft is going to be able to give us a head start to see how investment continues, right? Because when June 30 comes and whenever they report their fourth quarter earnings, they're going to, about 2 quarters from now, they're going to give us what they're going to spend on fiscal year of 2026. And if we see a growth in CapEx for fiscal year of 2026, then that overall will be super bullish, as we'll most likely see the similar trend for the fiscal year of all these other companies that usually start in January. So now the final project we heard about this week, and one I've done many videos on, is Stargate. And Stargate is a $500 billion investment over the next 4 years, building out new AI infrastructure for OpenAI in the United States, and they will begin deploying $100 billion immediately. Now, I've talked about this in previous episodes where I don't know if I would take that $500 billion to true value. But what I would take to true value is the overall trend. And this is another evidence that AI investments is still pretty heavy. So overall, as an AI investor, all these could be seen that, hey, look, yes, Nvidia will be able to have the potential to grow in revenues in the upcoming year as we're seeing huge demand of AI investments. Now, again, if you might have questions about the DeepSeek market or kind of the DeepSeek thoughts that are happening in the internet right now, make sure to check out my previous video. I cover that. Now, obviously, earnings are this week for a lot of AI companies. I think tomorrow's episode or later episode on today is going to be more about the investments or earnings I will be covering. But definitely sign up for the newsletter as I will be sharing top level overviews there for free. So take care, have a good day, and see you all next time.